Welcome back to Take Action News, everybody. David Shuster here on this May 11th edition. Just want to follow up on a segment we just had with Larry Knisell. Imagine if you spent 28 years working in a coal mine. The name of the company is Peabody Coal. And then Peabody Coal executives decide to try to create this shell of a company to try to get out from some of their obligations in terms of pensions and health benefits to their workers. They create this shell company called Patriot Coal. Patriot Coal, a company designed to fail. It does fail. It declares bankruptcy, and then everybody involved in now Patriot Coal doesn't have obligations now. They can write off the obligations because they're in bankruptcy. That is the situation that is facing these coal miners in West Virginia. And Daniel Marins, it is simply, we talk a lot about, some of the outrages that are out there, but it makes you sick to your stomach.
Yeah, David, I was just tweeting. I don't know what could be more morally reprehensible. I don't know how these executives sleep at night. I think about the fact that just 2 or 3 years ago, 30 coal miners at Upper Big Branch Mine were killed doing their jobs again because a greedy, despicable coal miner had flouted government regulations on safety for years and years and years. Those are the kinds of conditions that coal miners are already putting up with. That was a non-union mine. These are still some of the small fraction of miners in this country who still have union protections. And what do corporations who have workers with these union protections do? They talk to their lawyers and find ways to dump those obligations. It's purely profit motive over people's livelihoods, their health. It's dishonorable, it's disgusting, and frankly, it's traitorous. Because if this country means anything, if this idea that we're all Americans means anything, it should at least be that we would not send people to their death to make an extra buck.
It was well said. And, we like to talk in this country about how much we value our veterans and their service to keep us free. And folks like Larry Knisell, he is a veteran of Vietnam. All of us should be standing up and saying, good grief, this is how we're going to treat our veterans. This is how we're going to treat people who, following their service to our country, then they work in a coal mine for 28 years, and here he is now entering the twilight years of his life. And his health benefits, they're going to be taken away because of some greedy front group, some greedy corporation that's decided, here's how we can make money off of these coal miners. We simply create this shell of a company, the shadow company, have it go into bankruptcy, and then we're off the hook. That's not what America is about. That's not what most Americans are about. But until we're all willing to stand up and take action and call out the folks at Patriot Coal, anything but Patriot Coal, remember that name, Patriot Coal. Call your member of Congress and say it's despicable what Patriot Coal is doing. They're anything but patriotic, and it's time for this flim-flam to be exposed. Real people's lives are hanging in the balance on this. It's disgusting.